I'm definitely gonna upload these a day apart from each other, but ultimately it's pretty much the end anyway. Um, yeah, I think it just goes to show, like, pretty much right here at this moment, it goes to show that, of course, the way you transform your nightmares back into proper dreams like they were to start with, um, is, of course, choosing the dream over the nightmare. So always going for the higher rather than the lower. Lower is anything that's can be considered base or close to yourself that's kind of dark. Again, it's the sludge, I guess, that you would pull yourself out of. The Kabbalion puts it really well. Um, and yeah, I just thought about that, is that I could put Kabbalion stuff up here. But at the same time, I don't want to show the world that I don't pay for books. Um, but yeah, the information is always that the idea of polarity is that you're constantly stuck in hot or cold, good or bad. And the real gift in life is the in between. Somebody who does not stand for good or bad, somebody who does not stand for hot or cold. And the entire idea of polarity and everything, which is always why we get this understanding of shades of gray, is that we're constantly looking at life through these kind of tints, these different kind of colors. Colored understanding, black and white. But really, you can't tell when something goes from good to bad. Truly. Like, when it starts transitioning, that something started out good and then slowly started to go bad. Like, even if it was just a little bit bad, you probably wouldn't tell until it reaches the extreme end of bad. Same thing with when something bad turns good. You can't tell until it reaches its final stopping point, its end point, whatever that good is. Same too with any understanding that we have around hot and cold as well. Like, can you tell where hot begins and warm stops, and where cold begins and hot begins? Like, no, not really. Until it reaches the extreme ends of both of those. Whenever it leaves warm to go cold, whenever it leaves warm to go hot. That's sort of the understanding. And we always have a relationship with polarity where we kind of try to tread both, try to be a good person, try not to be a bad person. But is good and bad in all of this? Yes. Is humanity considered to be a race of beings that tend to be more gifted when it comes to being generous? Absolutely. There are there are research and all that kind of stuff that you can find around generosity and humanity. No other species, as far as science was able to tell, actually has any kind of relatable translation when it comes to what is it? Relatable translation to the understanding of what it means to be compassionate, but also to share what we have, to share what it is that we have in abundance that we could easily give to another person. It's not seen in other animals, it's not seen in other things, but again, that's because humanity is just built different, and humanity will always be built different. You can't compare the two, because our understanding is like we had to rationalize things, but we're also very complicated creators, but very simple creators as well. It's always the paradox, right? Is that these two things can withstand the test of time, and these two things can definitely share a relationship. Same thing with the darkness and cold. Which is a good point. darkness and cold do share a very close relationship, because whenever there is darkness, there is the cold, because then the sun is gone. And they find the little girl. That's right, she's not abandoned in Easter World land. Yeah, and then they stop believing in magic. They stop believing that there's anything other than darkness, because nightmares. And fun fact is that kids definitely do have nightmares when they start coming to that age where it becomes fixed. When your dreams become nightmares, you start having nightmares yourself. And everybody goes through it. They tend to have that phase where they're more exhausted and they're more fearful about life moving forward from childhood into adulthood or into teenhood. Which is why you could understand, like, cold is bad. It was one of my understandings, was it hurt a lot. Cold was pain for me, but I related it to loneliness, which actually, funny enough, is exactly the pitch here, is that look at what we can create together. You know, you're not alone. Your power can be dark, destructive, because the idea that Pitch has is that he's bad. I mean, anybody would see Pitch as a bad thing, is that he's, turning dreams into nightmares, but truly you need Pitch. We all need Pitch. It's not because it's something that you like or something that you dislike. Again, one of those polarity things. But the relationship still stands true, is that you will see this and assume that it is a bad thing to have so much reliance on nightmare fuel rather than being able to take care of yourself and deal with the situation at hand. Oh, look at that. And the relationship and how that works, everything about it, really. And every part of that is like the betrayal between Pitch and the cold is interesting. Because truly, there's nothing to fear in the cold. But there are things just to fear, and that's what Pitch is. The embodiment of fear, and all things born into fear. But I really do love the translation of this idea that once Jack was, just a fun-loving, jokester and somebody who loved to play and really wanted to bring his sister back alive and take care of her and make sure nothing happened to her, just to be transformed into somebody who can withstand the cold and be there for kids all over the world. And it's a beautiful thing to understand, is that just because something seems bad on its face, it doesn't mean that it is. It's not dark, it's not what we think it is or feel that it is. That's one of the biggest and most interesting things, is that the understanding of science and the semi-impermeable barrier that exists between all of humankind is that you can't interface with the wall. You have to teach yourself, and your body has to understand that these two things are separate, and that you can't just fall apart or intermesh into things. So it's always the understanding and the illusion that we're separated from each other, but also we're separated from life and existence itself. And that's what magic is for. That's what dreams are for. That's what all of those supernatural aspects are about, is that obviously, if it's true that you're separated, then it means nothing is totally concrete. Your dreams can be as real as you want them to be. The life that you want can be made. It can be totally made up. It can totally be something that you can get into. Even if you imagine it, like, imagination has a very huge power in this. And that's the understanding, is that the kids take back their dreams. It's not just the guardians. It's the kids themselves. They take part in all of this, and they go after them and help stop all of it. I didn't go back far enough. Here we go. See? Kids. You gotta be willing to face your fear, though. And it's childlike. Like, it has so many themes from the Kabbalion and everything that it always makes me smile when I see that particular part. Like, the moment I saw this part when I was watching it on my own, I was like, man, I want to talk about it. I want to talk about the truth behind it. And it's very true. Like, a child can stand up to their fears. Adults always see what they fear as a problem. You can't overcome your fear by solving it as if it's a Rubik's Cube that makes sense, because it doesn't. It never made sense. Everything that you had a nightmare about, it was just your dream. It wasn't manufactured. It wasn't sent to you to purposely attack you. No, it was just your dreams becoming the darkness, the fear, the dark magician in your life. Like, we all basically made our own enemies. It's fantastic, because it doesn't mean anything. It's not an insult. It's not even unhuman of us to create our own bad guys. I mean, we've done it for years. We've made shows about it. We've made movies about it. We've made so many things in relation to that. We never understood what our darkness was. We never understood what that was. It's always that understanding that humanity is ancient, basically. Like, everything that we are super advanced, we're ancient beings. But we don't understand the first thing about ourselves, and that's because half of it is hidden in things that don't make sense. More than half, 90% of it. 90% of it is like things that lie underneath the iceberg. And we're just the tippy top, and that's what most people understand. Their entire life, they go as just the tippy top. But it's just your dreams that you're so scared of, proving that you have, validating them, that you feel will destroy you, that will kill you. And the idea here, even, is that the kids standing there as these giant horses with glowing gold eyes were charging at them, and they still stood there and transformed it into the dream that they wanted. That's the relationship with alchemy. That's the relationship to magic, because you get to choose to have the dream over the nightmare. But it's a choice, and it must be made from a place of childlike wonder, where you're able to stand with your guardians, where you're able to rise with your guardians. There's an impact there. It's a relationship that exists and has always existed throughout the dawn of man. The reason why men even look to gods. The reason why demons are demons is because they started out as daimons. D-A-I-M-O-N. And it's a relationship with the daimonic, which was the relationship with basically your heart, with your dreams. And they're constantly trying to wake you up to the fact that you're living in a nightmare. You're living in a simulation made up by you. You're totally fixated on trying to protect yourself and survive, when there are things that you've come here to be a part of that you're just not showing up for. And that's where a lot of it comes from. This relationship right here. There's a reason why we make up gods. There's a reason why we make up spirits, fairies, all of this other stuff, because they're there for us. Not because everybody sees them. That's another side of it, is because if you go to Africa or any area with like an indigenous population, they'll speak of magic, voodoo, creation, and not necessarily just voodoo, fae magic, all of this other stuff, all of this otherworldly stuff that we don't see on a day-to-day basis, so we automatically write it off, is every bit true. But it's true in that it's not always out there, because if you're trying to prove that magic exists, you're never going to find it, and you're never going to prove it, because you have an agenda. You have something that you're trying to prove, because you're scared that other people will not take up what you're saying as truth if you can't prove it. And again, fear of making things up sort of has been a kind of trope to insult people when they make stuff up by saying, oh, you're just making that up. It's as if to claim that what you made up doesn't exist. But it does. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're a liar. Because most of the time people make stuff up and lie, and everyone can tell that they're a liar is because they think and they feel like they're telling the truth, rather than people who think that they're crazy because of what they're saying. Paradoxes do exist. And yeah, until literally the stability of pitch and the darkness can't be sustained, the structure goes away. That polarity is subdued by the higher. They are the higher. They are the fantasy. They are the magic. They are the existence moving forward that children have chosen. So they come out on top. And that's how it works. That's how our existence works. Not as a relationship born out of need or other things of that nature. It's born out of wanting. Because we all have desires, we all have dreams, we all have things that we want to create. And I don't mean supermodels, fast cars, lots of money. Those things are just because you feel like you don't have them and you can't have them. Straight off the bat. You feel like you can't have it, but you gotta be set or taken care of. Those things don't matter. Not really. Your dreams can bring about anything. And it will subdue the darkness. Just so long as you recognize what your darkness is. And this will conclude this series. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I never talk about likes or subscribing, but you know what? If you want to, you can. It's there. It's free. It doesn't do anything other than help YouTube realize that you like this content and that they should probably show it to a lot more people. Yeah. Maybe you've enjoyed this. May it have been enlightening. May it have shown some things. I definitely plan on getting more series to do this with. Again, it will be a lot of pausing. There won't be any volume. I won't put any music because, dear God, and copyright is an interesting creature. But yeah, that's it for me. And yeah, we'll see how these uploads go. And yeah, I'm just gonna create these because I actually enjoy them. And I get to realize that I recognize more of what's in here than I normally otherwise would if I just kept it to myself. So yeah. Yeah, hope you enjoyed. Take care of yourself. Take care of everyone else around you. But never sacrifice yourself for anyone. and always choose what you love over what you fear.